Petr Yan versus Sean O'Malley took place in the feature fight of UFC 280 Oliveira versus Makhachev, and I can't wait to give my reaction to this fight because this was by far the highlight of the UFC 280 card. It was an amazing fight back and forth. No doubt this is going to win the fight of the night bonus. Both guys had their moments. It was a very close fight, ended in a split decision. They gave it to Sean O'Malley. I would love to talk about how the fight went and all of my favorite moments that took place in the fight. However, I'm going to start by talking about the decision that was given to Sean O'Malley because I know that's what everyone wants to hear about. I thought Petr Yan won that fight. I thought there was an argument for 3-0 Petr Yan. I'll be honest with you guys. When I was watching it live, that's the way I was thinking. It's either going to be 2-1 Yan or 3-0 Yan, depending on how they score that third round, because O'Malley cut him open with a big knee. And although the strike numbers dictate it was like 40-15 for Sean O'Malley, I don't know what 40 strikes they're seeing. I'm just going to say that out loud. Maybe we're going to need the Weasel to do like a who really won video, and maybe, just maybe, and I'm going to say this as well, maybe if he does do that and uses like the very intricate damage-based scoring criteria, maybe you could give this to O'Malley based on the first and third round. However, when I was watching it live, and I'll have to rewatch it again, but when I was watching it live, I gave this to Petr Yan, and I find it very interesting that the two judges gave it to O'Malley, because I thought to myself, in some of the rounds, it was like, who's going to really seal the deal on this round? And in my mind, Yan sealed the deal on the rounds. He got a big slam takedown in the first, landed some ground and pound. I know O'Malley got like a split-second takedown at one point as well, but I don't think that stole him the round or won him the round against Petr Yan. And then in round 3, I was like, O'Malley might be slightly ahead, and then Yan gets a takedown at the end and lands a bunch of ground and pound shots, and I'm thinking to myself, well, Yan's just won that round as well. You know what I mean? This is almost like, to give it to O'Malley, he would have had to have been the guy getting those big moments at the end of the rounds. But I felt like Yan was getting all the big memorable moments to seal the deal and put a stamp on things, but O'Malley was getting the rounds by the judges. It was very interesting, and I don't think it's a robbery. But close fights, I think maybe it was. I was watching back some highlights of round 1. O'Malley, yes, he was outlanding Yan. Okay? He did outland Yan. But the quality of shots that Yan was landing compared to O'Malley were night and day, in my opinion. So yes, you can look at the stats and say, well, according to the recounted stats, O'Malley outlanded Yan on the feet. You can say that. But everything Yan landed on O'Malley, bar like a couple of strikes here and there, was solid, vicious strikes. Whereas O'Malley's, other than a couple of right hands in round 1, I believe he landed like 2 good right hands in round 1 that I remember. But Yan was landing heavy body kicks on him, heavy leg kicks on him as well, good punches on O'Malley as well. When he took him down, he was touching him up with total strikes, little elbows and stuff like that. Not counted towards significant strikes, but I still thought he would get the job done with the grappling. I think at one point he landed a big knee to O'Malley's face on the break of the clinch and stuff like that. So I was for sure giving round 1 to Petr Yan. But it was close, and I knew it was close, and maybe if the judges were going to go extra in-depth with the strike and the damage-based scoring, maybe they could just say it was O'Malley because he landed more. But the takedown at the end from Yan, where he landed some good ground and pound and had the dominance, and here's something I want to mention as well. It wasn't just a takedown. If Yan would have hit a little sweep on O'Malley and had O'Malley down and laid in his guard for a bit, that's a different story. But in my honest opinion, and maybe they need to tweak this in the rule set if they haven't already, a slam is very different to a takedown. I really believe that. So where you see Yan pick up O'Malley, carry him, and dunk him down on the ground and drive all of his body weight into O'Malley on the canvas, that to me is more significant than O'Malley flicking him a couple more times with a jab at a moment that wasn't really landing clean. And O'Malley was throwing front kicks to the body, and Yan would parry them away, and they would land partially. Couple of decent leg kicks from O'Malley, but Yan was checking some of them as well and making that read on O'Malley and landing really strong leg kicks of his own and stuff like that. And really buckling the legs of O'Malley at some points and landing right hands and landing like big body kicks, massive body kicks in the fight. That's what he found a read on as well. And I just found it shocking to me that they gave it to Yan, but I saw it a little bit. I must be honest. When I was at the end of that fight, and even if you thought Yan won, you were a little bit hesitant when it came to the judge's decision. I see a lot of people saying stuff like, and this is where I'm going to give O'Malley some slack. First of all, he hung with Yan. He's at the top level. If it was a 5-rounder, sure, you can say Yan would have finished him or Yan would have won, but whatever. But in a 3-round fight, he is right there with Petr Yan. And arguably, a better striker than Petr Yan, because what did Yan have to do to win? Get the grappling going. So you could argue that O'Malley is the best striker in the bantamweight division right now. Absolutely fine. But you have to admit, even though people are saying stuff like, biggest robbery I've ever seen, the judges have been completely paid off, it was rigged for O'Malley to win from the start, and stuff like this, be careful with all that, okay? There are way worse than that. It was a very close fight. And on damage, if you really want to get intricate with it, you can argue O'Malley won, but I would argue this. The shots from O'Malley in rounds 1 and 3 weren't doing much to Yan. And they were like getting his attention, but Yan would go right back to Terminator mode and boot O'Malley's ribs off nearly. And then O'Malley would be like, oh God, and moving around on the back foot. I know octagon control comes into it if it's that close of a round as well. I just think they really overly jumped to the striking numbers of O'Malley and not of who really looked like they were bullying the other guy around and winning the fight, because I thought Yan won round 1 based on the takedown at the end. I know O'Malley got a little bit of a takedown at the end as well. I'll have to rewatch the whole thing and really slow it down and break it down and look at every shot that was landed and stuff like that. But round 2, let's talk about the fun of the fight. O'Malley lands such a beautiful right hand on Yan and then follows it up with another combination, and Yan's hurt and rocked at one point in round 2. Like, he felt that shot and was like, oh God, I've actually felt that one, and that was a good shot, and I'm gonna start to really, like, take a back step for a second and recalibrate myself. And just when you think he's out of it, and maybe O'Malley's gonna start pulling ahead because he got respect, Yan lands a vicious right hand on O'Malley. And O'Malley genuinely, and I think this is true, because he said he doesn't even remember it, I think if he didn't grab a hold of Yan with the way he was, he would have went down to that right hand. He would have got dropped by that right hand. And I called a shot like that landing in round 2 for Petr Yan. But O'Malley sort of grabbed a hold of Yan afterwards to keep him upright. And Yan ended up taking him to the ground and beating him up a little bit there and landing a couple of shots here and there. He didn't do crazy amounts with a ground and pound, I will mention that, but he still did enough to win the moment of everything that was going on. You know, he was landing knees as O'Malley got back up to his feet. Little punch. I think I remember in the first round as well, as O'Malley was getting back up against the cage, Yan would like punch him a couple of times in the face as he got back up. And just stuff like that I think should be counted towards it. Like, I thought Yan should have won this. But yeah, Yan landed back in round 2. Started landing some really big shots at the end of round 2. Started chucking O'Malley around a little bit. I do want to mention this part of this as well. O'Malley cheated a lot in the fight. I know there was some complaints about Yan extending his fingers, but there wasn't an eye poke. You know, as far as we know, there wasn't like an eye poke, so it wasn't like a committed foul, although it was technically. He needs to have his fingers up. O'Malley grabbed the cage a bunch, and he grabbed the gloves a bunch as well to stop a lot of moments from Yan and tie him up in the ground and pound moments and not let him really get some stuff off, and also like find his way back up to his feet. He even grabbed on the cage to like scoot his hips out in the 3rd round to find his way back up to his feet at the end of round 3. It was very cheaty from O'Malley here and there, and the referee swatted away at the hands a couple of times, but I think they needed to take maybe a point, but you know, it wasn't that too drastic and fight-changing, but all those little things come into factor when you start thinking about who should win a razor-close decision. Maybe the guy who's cheated a bunch this fight with cage grabs and hooking the gloves with his hands and stuff like that. He stopped a takedown at one point with one of them, so I feel as though Yan should have won. Round 3 was genuinely close, but I get how you can give it to O'Malley because of the knee, and it opened up visible damage on Yan's face and left him leaking all over the place and stuff like that. But then Yan would get back, get the takedown, land a couple shots as O'Malley got back up, land massive shots on the feet on O'Malley as well. And yes, O'Malley would then go jab, 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 to rally up the numbers. But then O'Malley would go, then Yan would go, boom, boom, 2 big shots right on O'Malley's chin. And O'Malley's going, fuck, I need to back up a little bit and circle and find my rhythm. And, you know what I mean? It was just, Yan was landing more vicious shots, as far as I remember. And the Weasel's definitely going to make a video. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm thinking this in my head, I wouldn't be surprised if the Weasel's video came to the verdict of, on a technicality basis, Yan beating O'Malley. O'Malley beating Yan in rounds 1 and 3. Wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. But when you look at the visibility of a fight, and this is the bit that's hard to swallow sometimes with some of the judges' decisions. Sorry, I'm looking at DC's smiling face about Makhachev winning and it's pissing me off. Sorry, I need to fucking click off this screen for a second. Alright. When you think about who's visibly winning, O'Malley on the ground was like... And I know he's trying to get his breath back and it's like a method of breathing and stuff like that, but there was genuinely like panic in his face when Yan was on top of him and landing a few shots here and there and framing off with some elbows and stuff like that. And even when he got clipped by some big shots from Yan, Yan's face barely changed in that fight. Whereas O'Malley's was like, oh God, I've been cracked for the first time and wobbled badly. O'Malley does have a decent chin though. I'll give him that. He showed a good chin. It was a great second round. He was landing good shots on Yan. But Yan, at one point in the 3rd round, am I forgetting this or am I remembering this correctly? Didn't he land a jumping switch kick to O'Malley's face? This is what I'm talking about with like the kind of shots that were landed by Yan. And I'd be very interested to see the Weasel's video, because maybe I'm off. But I'm giving O'Malley the benefit of the doubt to say it was a very close fight. I just thought Yan did what it took at the end of the rounds to secure the win. Takedown, big slam at the end of round 1, couple punches there, couple elbows, total strikes, rallying him up and stuff like that. I thought that won him the 1st round at the end of it because it was close. Other than that, maybe O'Malley was barely ahead. And then round 3, although he got cut, he ended with massive ground and pound at the end, and he was slowly wearing on O'Malley and stuff like that, despite O'Malley grabbing the cage and grabbing his gloves and cheating and stuff. He was doing good as the fight went on, landed a jumping switch kick, landed massive body kicks, massive leg kicks as well. And round 2, he pulled that back as well, so it's one of those fights. I don't think it was a robbery, but I do think it was the wrong decision on like who we kind of know beat up the other guy. Although O'Malley got the visible damage, like I genuinely believe if Yan didn't get cut open by that knee, people unanimously have that round to Yan, or Yan, sorry, winning that round. Like if O'Malley didn't have that one moment at the start of round 2, that's just a clear dominant round by Yan. If O'Malley didn't flick a couple jabs at a time to rally up like 5 or 6 partial blows, that's a clear round to Yan. Like, it was just, it's unfortunate, but O'Malley, in between his excellence of striking, which he did look great, he kind of played the game of the numbers to try and sway the judges. I'm just very surprised the judges gave it to him. Very surprised. I thought they were going to go Yan. I thought they were going to go... I thought we were going to hear, when I heard split decision, 29-28 O'Malley, 29-28 Yan, 30-27 2, and then I'd be like, Yan got it, you know what I mean? But O'Malley looked good. Does he beat Aljo? I think he doesn't, and that maybe I'll be back on his show, and maybe I'll be wrong again, who knows? But I don't think he beats Aljo. There's just something about the style. If Yan can offensively grapple you and get you down, shocking as it may be, and you didn't expect it, I understand. I think Aljo, even with your preparation, is going to be able to take you down and get you back and choke you out and stuff like that. So, we'll see. But I think Yan should have won. Very good performance by O'Malley, though. You can't knock him. Had a great performance. Showed toughness. Showed a good chin. I just think Yan edged it. It was very close, though. And to be fair, it wasn't expected that it was going to be a razor-close fight. Although I did say O'Malley round 1... Yan losing round 2 until catching him, and then round 3. And I mean, it was kind of similar to that, but Yan using his offensive grappling. I said Yan would stack guard and land ground and pound shots, and he did. But they just didn't give him the decision. And for Yan, what a horrible career he's had. And what a perfect little dainty career Aljo's had. Isn't that unfair? Yan, well, I know he messed it up himself in the first Aljo fight, but come on, man. Messed it up himself in the first Aljo fight, but that's unlucky, dude. He was winning that. He made a lapse of judgment. Yeah. You know what I mean? He then has to fight Sandhagen in the middle of it, which is a complete opposite matchup to Aljo. Gets through that in a war, and a tough war at that as well. Then he has to go for Aljo again, and he gets his back taken, and Aljo barely, gaily fucking outpoints him at range and picks at him and stuff like that, even though we saw Yan dominate the 4th and 5th round and pressure him and break him in those rounds, and Aljo's playing the game on the knees and stuff like that, and he loses that split decision, which should have been a split decision to Aljo, but still unlucky for him to have to face that type of opponent. And then he goes against O'Malley, risks everything, arguably should have won, gets it given the other way. Unfortunate for Yan, very fortunate for O'Malley. It's good to have him at the top of the division, but I think this is worse, because all I'm seeing are comments saying that Yan got robbed. And I think O'Malley's stock would have been raised more if he lost. Fair play, the potential matchups we have now are massive, and they are way bigger than they would have been if O'Malley lost. But the respect from the fans, I think, would have been higher if he lost that close decision. Like, if that last scorecard was 29-28 Yan, I think all of the comments wouldn't have been robbed. It would have been, man, O'Malley's good. Man, O'Malley's this. O'Malley's great. O'Malley's probably the best striker at bantamweight. Now all the comments are going to be, Yan got robbed, Yan got robbed, Yan got robbed all the time. So, very good fight. Like and subscribe. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.